Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Hello and welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I'm glad you've joined me here. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to start this show with a fun food fact, which I like to do, and it's a timely one. Since we just had the Super Bowl. According to the USDA, Super Bowl Sunday is the second highest day of food consumption in the U.S., next to Thanksgiving, which is the highest. Isn't that amazing? All those buffalo wings and whatever else, probably some beer. Anyway, on to our topic today. I have put a lot of thought into this, and especially because it's a turbulent time in our world, in our nation, the United States. So you may be listening from somewhere else in the world, but I'm talking about right here where I am. And it's definitely a time of transition and upheaval. And so, for somebody who's an emotional eater, that can be troubling for a lot of people. But for emotional eaters, since that's really who I'm talking to here, and what I certainly have been as an emotional eater. I was 50 pounds overweight on account of all the emotional eating that I did. So when there's a lot going on, when there's fear in the air, where there's discord and dissension, and just a lot of unknowns, politically is primarily what I'm talking about here, but the fallout from that, it can cause people to really feel afraid and nervous and turn to food. Okay, so this is why I've given this some thought, because it's certainly, this topic is germane to me in the way that I've had to sort of sort this stuff out. And so I'm going to share that with you. The topic title is Anger, Politics, and Emotional Eating. And I just want to say that, the past year has really been one of boundary breaking, obviously, where what we believed to be the norm was challenged and busted out by Donald Trump. Okay, Donald spoke his mind. He said things that are considered to be blasphemous. He disregarded the way things are done and what we're used to, and he paved his own path, and that obviously has created a lot of turbulence. In some ways, I believe this is a commendable and refreshing thing in some ways, because certainly I think people, in this day and age right now, really like authenticity. They like people who speak their mind. They like people who aren't just going along party lines or certain lines of belief, but literally just break out and say what they think. And I think right now that's refreshing for a lot of people. It's why so many people reacted positively to him. So that's a good thing. His lack of conformity and regard for social and political norms made him stand out from the crowd and made him stand out from other presidential contenders. Unfortunately, his offensive remarks in the way that he was so open and did speak his mind, he offended a lot of people, and it made a lot of people feel afraid and unstable. What would he do next? How far is he actually going to go? Can we be safe with such a leader? So this is what's creating this unrest, obviously. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here. We're all living it, right? So you may be one of the many people who are feeling afraid and angry. And if so, you're likely resorting to feelings of anger more than fear. And, that's really common. And that's because anger is a secondary emotion to fear. And frankly, it's often a more comfortable feeling to feel than fear. Okay. So, if you find yourself feeling angry or yelling at the TV or cursing Trump and everyone who works for him, I am addressing this show to you. However, if you're a Trump supporter and you feel happy about the choices he's making, or at least give him the benefit of the doubt and don't feel angry, perhaps you've spent some time prior to him being elected you spent time being angry at Obama and cursing him for his policies. So either way, this show is for you, okay? It's for everybody, wherever you stand politically, because at some point in time, you're going to be in the shoes of being angry about what's going on or who's in the White House. So the bottom line is self-righteous anger is an emotion we can all indulge in. And after all, and I just have to make this point, the Democrats were as hateful and denigrating towards George W. Bush as the Republicans have been toward Obama in the last 8 years. So it really does go both ways, okay? Everyone is guilty of judging and hating and condemning. It's just, we take, both sides get involved and take turns, basically, whichever side is in the White House. But I'm talking about this topic today because I have a lot of experience with self-righteous anger. And because of this, because of that feeling and the words and the actions that follow it typically, it can be really a dangerous thing for emotional eaters. And it can keep us in perpetual turmoil and just upheaval. So again, I'm talking about this because as an emotional eater, I know how riled up I can get and how absolutely twisted up I can get to the point of overeating. And I don't want to see that happen to you. I certainly don't want it to happen to me. And there is a way to avoid it. So that's what I'm talking about here. Bottom line, as an emotional eater, I cannot afford to be angry or dwell in feelings of hatred. Bottom line, case closed. I cannot afford to hate. And the reason why I can't afford to hate Donald Trump, and I don't. And the reason why is because, ill feelings and anger inside of me blocks me off from the sunlight of the Spirit. It blocks me and causes me to turn a color I don't like, and with emotions I don't like. And the end result will always be, if I'm living in hate toward anybody, it's always going to be curtains for me, and emotional eating. Now, I don't have any ill feelings towards Trump because I believe that in his heart, he's trying to do what he feels is best for our country. And almost half our country apparently elected him for that reason. So I may not agree with his proposed policies and actions, and I may hate the words he speaks and the manner in which he's treated some people, but I don't hate him for it. Hating him would not serve me. After all, I am very patriotic. I love the United States of America, and I feel so proud to be an American. And I do realize, too, that I'm privileged to live in America. And I didn't earn this. I was born here, and I'm super lucky. I consider myself so. And not everyone enjoys the freedoms and prosperity we enjoy in this country. So I will never, hopefully, ever take that for granted. And even though some of our civil liberties may be challenged with this new presidency, it's possible, right? We don't know yet. I still can't afford to live in fear or hate. Now, 2 weekends ago, I watched the Sunday news programs, and it's something I typically do. I've enjoyed that because I avoid the news throughout the week as much as possible, and I try to get a summary of what's going on. And I listen to the talking heads on the weekend, on Sundays specifically, and then from there I evaluate and decide what I think and feel about things. And I don't take any one party line on anything because I don't want my ability to evaluate the issues and decide where I stand. I don't want that to be diminished by associating with any one party. But 2 weeks ago, after watching these programs, I decided I cannot afford to watch the news regularly. It's far too negative, and I don't want to pollute my mind with the negativity. I mean, that's why I don't watch during the week. But now it's like I have to have a complete moratorium on the news because of the negativity. I can't afford it. And that's really especially why I hate the political season in this country. There's so much anger, so much vituperation, and not just in the candidates, but in those aligning with the candidates and with reporters at times as well. And so it's just, it's really poisonous. And I personally, I'd like to have the fortitude to be able to handle all kinds of negativity going on in the world, but if I have a choice, I choose not to indulge because of what happens to me. I'm not better than, I'm not superior, I'm not being hoity-toity here. I don't like what happens to me when I get embroiled in these feelings and arguments with the television or with other people. I don't like to argue with other people either. I evaluate how I feel about things, and that's it. When I watch TV and I choose sides and I make mental notes or actually comment out loud about the issues, there's this sense of righteousness, a sense of I know what's best. In my head, I'm thinking or out loud, I'm saying this guy's an idiot and that one's an ass and that party or those people are delusional. I can get caught up in it just as much as the next person. I can get filled with so much self-righteousness and indignation that before long, I'm sounding and feeling like just as much of an ass as I'm saying they are, as I'm judging them for being. So I really have to watch it. I just have to watch this stuff. I can hear myself, spouting out these statements about the issues, like I know what's best. I love to be right. We're talking, I can sound so right about things, and it just courses through my veins, this righteousness, and makes me feel alive and strong and invincible. And in fact, growing up, anger was something I used to get by on, okay? I had a situation as a child, sexual abuse, that I wasn't able or didn't have the fortitude, or, that this is a whole nother show at another time. But the bottom line is I resorted to anger to protect myself, okay? I developed a habit of being angry and righteous as a way of feeling strong and as a way of feeling like I was shielding myself from outside influences, okay? It's just it's a survival mechanism. But I'll tell you, it doesn't die easy. So when I got into recovery, I noticed this about myself, about how much I loved. I really got off on being angry. And I came to see that I can't afford it. Like I can't afford that drug. And for me, it was a drug. Because it did make me feel powerful and knowledgeable and in control, but only in the moment. So, after a while, it didn't feel good. I felt hung over and wiped out when I'd go in these tears of anger and righteousness and yelling at the TV or telling other people that, what candidate's stupid or this one's that or whatever. So, I can't afford to go to battle like that because I feel haggard and tired, and truthfully, it wears me down spiritually and emotionally, mentally, and probably physically as well. So being right and stating my case feels good in the moment, but when it's fueled with anger and a sense of superiority and indignation, it ends up making me feel bad, and I can't afford it. So basically, as an emotional eater, this is a survival skill for me, is to watch how angry I get in a situation. And I can go there, and we can all go there. It's a human quality, obviously, to be angry. And it's not bad. There's nothing bad with being angry. It's not a moral thing, I don't believe. It's a human emotion. For me, it was a survival technique as a child. But the bottom line is, as an emotional eater who wants to not emotionally eat, I have to step back as soon as I notice when I'm dipping into that cauldron of boiling blood. I have to notice what I'm thinking, what I'm saying and feeling, and I need to change my state, okay? I need to do an about face. Watching the news shows a few weeks ago made me feel upset and afraid and unsafe. And that's what happened. And I hated that feeling. I've never felt unsafe as an American, never. But the bottom line is I've always felt protected and like everything was going to be okay as an American. And I really have faith in our democracy and in our constitutional system. Things go wrong all the time, but bottom line is I never feel like there's anything really to fear. But I didn't feel that way that day when I was watching the news. And I'm not sure if it was actually the current events that made me feel unsafe, or it was the media and the way they were reporting the events, and maybe it was a little bit of both. But it doesn't really matter, because I made a decision that day that I wasn't going to watch the news at all. I couldn't afford the anguish. And the bottom line is I have a lot to do in this world. I have a mission to carry. I really have a passion for carrying a message of hope and healing to emotional eaters worldwide. So I don't want to be off my game. And I don't have the mental and emotional bandwidth to really spend my time getting spooked and scared about the state of our nation. It's like I don't have time for it. And the truth is, there's lots of other people who will go there for me, and I need to spend my energy seeing how I can contribute to life, how I can make a difference in the unique way God has inspired me to do. I need to keep my nose to the grindstone and focus on that. And if I spend my time being angry or afraid or hateful or resentful or all of the above, I'm squandering hours that I need to use to be helpful. I have to focus on what I can do, what I, Tricia Nelson, can personally do to make this world better. And, I want to be sure that our democracy is protected, absolutely. But for now, I'm choosing to donate money to causes that are designed to help protect our democracy. That way I can spend time on things I can actually do something about. In the 80s, when I was in college, I marched 2 different times in Washington. We rode buses down from Amherst, Mass. I was going to Amherst College at the time. And we hopped on these big yellow buses that were super uncomfortable, and we drove down to Washington, D.C. to march. The experience was exhilarating, and it was fun. It was exhilarating. I was angry. I was righteous. I was in community with others. There was a lot of good about it, and I really think everyone should march for a cause if they feel so called at least one point or one time in their life. It's quite an experience. But when I began my journey of recovery, I had to really look honestly at my activism. I had to see that most of my anger and righteousness I expressed in Washington was displaced, okay? I had many unaddressed issues from my childhood that I was using righteous causes as a channel for, and that was the truth for me. And I'm not saying everybody who marches is, putting their issues, into those causes. But that was the honest truth for me. And when I realized that about myself, I did change what I did and how I responded to situations in the world. As emotional eaters, we tend to identify with the victim. That's a very strong common trait for emotional eaters. We love to champion the underdog. We can really get our blood boiling, and by focusing on the injustices in the world. I would, cry if there was a dog that was hurt, or a movie where a child was being injured in some way or abused. And so what it would do is it would tap into my own victimhood. So this is why so many emotional eaters, really do champion the underdog, because we were the underdog at one time in our lives. We were abused, either sexually, physically, verbally, mentally, or in all of these ways. And we didn't have a voice or emotional resources to fight back. We were victims, and we perceived we or anyone else being victimized needs our rescue, our support. We couldn't support ourselves or rescue ourselves growing up. So once we're adults, it's like, watch out. We can get on that warpath pretty damn quickly. And don't get me wrong, when I feel personally wronged, or when I feel like something or someone is wronged and it makes sense for me to fight that battle, I will. And I can be a force to be reckoned with, for sure. But hopefully you hear what I'm saying. Because I'm an emotional eater and I want to remain in balance emotionally so that I don't end up staring in the refrigerator at 11 o'clock at night, wondering what I can eat to settle down, I have to pick my battles carefully. So fighting Trump and fighting the world's problems isn't where I want to put my energy right now. I know for some who are living in that place of indignance, especially if they're listening to me right now, that may seem very irresponsible. But I don't feel that way. For one thing, I'll just tell you this, I was president once. I was president of my school in high school. Certainly not the same as president of the United States, but I learned something from it, okay? So I was president of my school, and I was the second woman president ever at that school. It had been an all-boys school, and when I was there, I was the second girl who had become president. And I put a lot into it. I really enjoyed being president. I enjoyed being active and being productive. I've always been solution-minded, so I really wanted to see what I could do to improve the school, improve the students' experience of the school, have activities that were fun and got people in community. But anyway, what I learned from that experience, after a lot of people were very negative and just sat on the sidelines to bitch about what I was doing or wasn't doing, I went to school with a lot of rich kids who just wore black and smoked cigarettes and liked to hate, I think. So they just ripped at me, and it killed me. It was so hard for me. I didn't have the self-esteem to sustain that. I took it personally, like Trump does. And so it was hard for me and really devastating because my heart was in the right place. And so ever since then, I really vowed, it wasn't really a conscious thing, but it developed over time as an adult. I realized that the best thing I can do is be supportive of who's ever president. And again, not meaning I have to agree, not meaning I don't have to speak up in whatever ways I feel guided to, but I don't rip at whatever president is there. And whether I agree or disagree, I don't go there. And I don't do it because I've had it done to me, and I just find I find that irresponsible, frankly. And so what I like to do is do what I can to make a difference, but with love in my heart and always with a sense of respect, really. I mean, I do respect, the office of president. And even if even if Trump is so out of the box as a president that he may not even respect the office of being president at times, in the way that at least we're used to, it's still my own personal vow to myself that I will always be respectful of that position. So it's just my own little thing. That's just a little aside, I guess. It's just, and I share that obviously because it's easy to criticize and blame the president. But in my experience, it doesn't do a whole hell of a lot of good, and there are other ways I could spend my energy. I had a friend who's younger say recently that she thought Bush was evil. And I asked her why she thought that, and she said, well, she traveled a lot in Europe, and at that time when Bush was president, George W. was president, Europeans and people around the world just thought he was awful. And this is the time when he was, our country was invading Iraq. And so there was a lot of negative, thoughts and feelings about Bush. And because she was out there among that, she adopted that same view that he was evil. And I told her that that was not my experience of George W. Bush, that and had I been a registered Democrat, that might have been my stance. But again, I am actually a registered independent because I don't want to lose my ability to think critically and individually on any issue. And on whatever, Bush was in there. I cried when we invaded Iraq. I felt to my bones that was the wrong thing to do and would result in a lot of purposeless death, which it did. Nevertheless, I don't hate Bush, and I never did. I never thought he was evil on account of those things. I believe I believe he believed in his heart he was doing the right thing. So frankly, actually, while I'm on the topic of Bush, I've been very impressed with him since he left office through the whole 8 years that Obama was president, because he never got in there to make comments about the job Obama was doing. And frankly, Obama had trashed Bush in his run for office. I don't know if you remember, but both, Michelle and Barack Obama were super harsh towards Bush. They let it fly. He was the Antichrist, according to Democrats, and he was right there in there. It helped his election, I'm sure. But both George and Laura Bush were so respectful and kind towards the Obamas in the transition period, and ever since, they were in the White House. They stayed out. Bush stayed out. He became an artist, frankly. I'm sure he spoke and made some good money as a speaker from time to time. I don't know, but I do know he became an artist, and I think that's kind of sweet, frankly. And another thing to his credit is he never got upset with how the media portrayed him and all the hate that was directed his way when he was president. He did not go around bad-mouthing the media the way Trump does, chasing around everything that they say that he thinks is wrong. He was far stronger and I believe more emotionally secure than Trump in that way. He just, he followed he had the courage of his convictions, and I respect him for that. I didn't agree with a lot of things, but I have to say some things I thought were noble, the work with the AIDS that he did and the money that was spent toward that aim or that end. But frankly, I just was impressed with how silent he was with regard to the anger. And a lot of times it hurt him politically to be quiet when the media was really dogging him. So I respect for that. So I always liked the guy, bottom line. Okay, I did not mean to talk politics so much here. This is really not what I intended to do. And I hope you understand I'm really talking about principles more than about politics, because I'm not even a political person. As you know, I don't watch the news. But the bottom line is I've learned a lot from my own response to the news and response to the political environment that we're experiencing. And the point I'm really trying to make can be summed up in this way. I'm going to quote St. Augustine, who stated in a letter once this Latin phrase, I'm going to butcher this, cum delectione hominum et odio vitiorum, which translates roughly to with love for mankind and hatred of sins. And that's been extrapolated over time into the saying, hate the sin, but love the sinner. And that's really what I'm talking about here. Hate the sin, but love the sinner. You know, our country is undergoing some major transition right now, and it's causing a lot of chaos and stress. And my feeling is that instead of resorting to hate and bitching about Trump and being afraid, try a different tack. And if you're happy about the changes going on, this message can apply to any politician you don't like or who makes you angry, or anyone in your life for that instance, your boss or coworker or anyone else. The conclusion I came to when I turned off the TV 2 weeks ago and went for my, that day I turned off the TV and went for my daily walk pray. And what I came to was that I cannot find safety from outside of me, or I can't depend on a sense of safety outside of me, that I need to seek it from God. And there is no instability in God, and that's what I got. There's no lack of harmony or protection or peace when I'm turning in within to God. And remembering that fact wiped the fear right out of my mind and heart, because it's true. God is my only hope, and that's where I can turn. That's where I can turn when I'm looking for a feeling of safety and protection. And I believe that instead of looking for our leaders to fix things, to make us feel safe, we need to look within ourselves. And within us is a resource of courage and strength and of safety and love that can sustain us and can help us be a sense of support to others as well. And we're living in a time of great spiritual opportunity. We can bitch about the way things are, assuming and affirming that we're victims and that our fate is designed by others and we're powerless, or we can reach deeper within ourselves for that juice that we need to shape amazing lives. And the leadership really now must come from us. And in fact, it always should. And for some, that may mean marching in Washington, expressing your feelings pro and con about what's happening politically right now is fine. Do that if that's what you're called to do. But don't allow the illusion that you're a victim rule your consciousness. Don't live in hate, blame, anger, and bitterness. That will actually perpetuate your sense of powerlessness, even though in the moment it may make you feel strong. So I'm going to leave you with an example from Super Bowl Sunday's halftime show. Lady Gaga, if you saw it, Lady Gaga, the athletic and musical goddess that she is, whether you saw it or not, she apparently, this isn't a little aside, but she's apparently overcome some serious body dysmorphia to get up on stage and show us all her lovely physique the way she did. I mean, boy, she's fit. She's super fit. Has suffered from an eating disorder. She's mentioned in the past. And so she used to cover her body. She used to be draped with clothing, outrageous clothing. And the fact that she was up there very, barely clothed, I thought was pretty impressive. But I digress. Lady Gaga put on a powerful performance that held a very clear message at one point about how she feels about sending people out of this country. her song that had the lyric "Stay" and her corresponding choreography spoke to that issue in such a touching way. And I've put a clip on my show notes if you want to check it out, a clip of this halftime show and the part I'm talking about. Lady Gaga channeled her own feelings of fear and frustration in a way that was creative, artistically and emotionally expressive, and positive. She was essentially saying that we want our brothers and sisters, no matter what color or nationality, to stay with us right here and right now. So like Lady Gaga, let's practice expressing our own thoughts and desires, our own fears and concerns in a constructive, useful way. Let's make a difference with love in our hearts, not hate. And it may sound cliche, I know, but it's true. As emotional eaters, love will heal us and enable us to help and heal others. So no matter what's going on in the world, as the Beatles said, all you need is love. And that's the truth. So thanks so much for listening. I do appreciate it. And I can't wait to be with you again. Please check out our website and for more goodies, and also please leave a review on iTunes if you can. I'd sure appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.